Join me now to weigh in, representing Texas's 4th Congressional District, Congressman Pat Fallon. Congressman, obviously a lot to unpack here, but I will say this was a good night for Republicans. The Democrats, a little out of touch. They didn't see this coming, but people like me and like you who talk to everyday Americans, I think we did see this coming.
Stephanie, it was not only a great night for Republicans, but today it's a great day for America. Glenn Youngkin is going to be a sensational governor of Virginia. And I want to make sure it's not lost on your viewers that, as you said, we won the governorship, but also the lieutenant governorship, the attorney general's office, and flipped the state house in Virginia. Clean sweep. In Texas, there was a state house race in a special election that was a +14 Democratic district. We won that too. And of course, New Jersey's really tight right now. But it was a great day, and it's an absolute rejection of Joe Biden's socialist vision for this country.
Yeah, when I look at this and all the different races that happen, there's a pretty clear signal here. It's the American people are rejecting things like defund the police. They're rejecting the Biden presidency. You look at all the crises that are going on under this president, whether it be inflation, the border crisis, and so on. So people are waking up. They see what's going on, and they know that the Democratic Party doesn't have the answers for them. We have Democrats who are focused on pronouns and implementing critical race theory in schools, and they're turning a blind eye to what's going on at the border. And it's like, when it comes to inflation, they're trying to trick us into thinking it's a good thing.
Make no mistake about it. It wasn't just about Virginia. It wasn't just about Glenn Youngkin. This was about Joe Biden too. And like you just said, an open border is an immoral border, both for the folks that live south and north of it. And people are tired of it. And they got to vote. They got to express their outrage. Because what the American people want, no matter where you're from geographically, no matter what your race, your ethnicity, your creed is, you want opportunity and you want prosperity. And the Republican Party, with limited government, low taxes, reasonable regulation, that formula works. We've seen it the world over. And that's what people want more of. And they want strength abroad, and they want a secure border, because if you're not safe, then you're not free. That's the vision that people were voting for last night.
Yeah, we have a video of VP Kamala Harris campaigning for McAuliffe in Virginia just about 4 days ago. We'll listen to it and then react after roll tape.
See, what happens in Virginia will in large part determine what happens in 2022, 2024, and on.
I think she's spot on there. It's very unusual where I would say that about the VP.
I would say that I wholeheartedly agree with the Vice President of the United States. She had it on the nail on the head. That's exactly what we're seeing. I think that it's going to be very interesting, Stephanie, today on the House floor. I think there's going to be half of it's going to be in mourning and half of it's going to be in celebration. But we also we can't lose sight of the fact that the midterm elections aren't for another year. But it's going to be very interesting to see any Democrat that's in a House seat that President Biden won by less than 10%. They're going to be shaking in their shoes today, and they should be for the rest of the year. And are they still going to continue to vote for this radical, far-left, runaway spending that the socialists like Ms. Cortez wants, and Ms. Bush, and the other members of the squad? Because that's not what the American people want, and I think they just heard it loud and clear. Maybe they'll get the message, and maybe not.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think this means for Biden's agenda and infrastructure and some of these other socialist programs and ideas that the Democrats have?
Listen, this is what I would do. And I know Joe Biden doesn't take advice from me. But really, if he was a very effective and strong president, what he should do is this. Shelve the Build Back Better, or as I call it, the Biden-Bernie bankruptcy. Shelve it altogether. Focus on infrastructure and trim it severely. Down from the $1.2 trillion, it started out at $2.25 trillion, about $400 billion rather, sorry. And focus on real infrastructure, broadband internet across this country, roads, bridges, waterways, investing in the country now so we can really prosper into this new century. Just lick your wounds and move forward. But will he do that? Almost definitely not, because what he has proven over the last 11 months is he just appeases his far left base. That's all he does. He is a one-trick pony.
So Biden returned in the early hours this morning from his trip abroad from the G20 and the climate summit in Glasgow, Scotland. And what do you think it was like being Biden coming home to all of this? I mean, he really had no idea that the election night was going to go this way.
No, he guaranteed a victory. And once again, he was wrong. We're seeing another consistent pattern here. He'll say something and he's proven wrong. He'll ignore something and it proves to be a problem. We see it over and over. So he came back and he's going to have to hopefully readjust his priorities and realities moving forward, because this was, again, a great victory for America.
A lot of us were extremely critical of his trip abroad because, keep in mind, this is the same person who hasn't had time to make it to the border in over a decade when we have a border crisis going on there. And he's running around talking about how climate change is an existential threat and it's like the #1 threat facing our country and the world. Yet, you know, he rolls in on Air Force One and he has like an 85-car motorcade, and now we're learning that there was some like 400 private jets there. I mean, all of these elitists have way bigger carbon footprints than the rest of us, and it's just so hypocritical. So he's out there talking about climate change when we have major problems at home. So to me, it just shows how out of touch he is.
Well, you have the patricians, Joe Biden and his limousine liberal friends, and then you got the rest of us, the peasants, the plebeians. And so they burnt, it's something to the effect I just read, 13,000 tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which is more than 1,600 citizens of Britain would use in an entire year to talk about the climate and why that's a problem. And while they're being so incredibly hypocritical, because again, they're out of touch. And if the environment was so important, why didn't they just do it virtually? They could have had, that's no carbon footprint. And they've been doing that because they said COVID was going to kill us all. But apparently COVID's not that much of a threat anymore. And then he goes there, and he's the president of the United States. When they take a photo, I mean, symbolism sometimes really does matter. He should have been front and center. He's the president of our country, the greatest country history's ever known. He was off to the side. He looked like he was going to get somebody a water. He looked like he was a gopher or a roadie. And then he fell asleep when they were having, in part of the conference. That's not, again, projecting strength and vision at all.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, he was late for meetings. He was caught falling asleep at the climate summit. So he's so worried about climate change, he can't even keep his eyes open during the summit, at least pretend he's listening or that he cares. So again, it just shows where their priorities are, and it's not with regular everyday Americans. And of course, I just want to point this out, Republicans, we care about the environment and we want to protect our environment. But that being said, there has to be a balance. And this idea that we're going to go to like zero net emissions by 2050, that's just not, that's impossible. And so we need to be discussing a realistic solutions and not living in fantasy land. Like, you know, with Biden, where we're going to fly around on electric unicorns or something. I mean, they're totally out of touch. Well, anyways, today it's going to be this whole week. I think the Democratic Party will be soul searching, figuring out their future. But I say that this is really promising for the Republican Party and something that we all needed. So I'm really excited about that. Well, Congressman, we're going to leave it here. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Stephanie. God bless.
Of course. Thank you.